asked me to raise a few dollars to bring this beam across America. As I spoke to many people, they asked me, why all this effort for just a piece of steel? In fact, people today still ask, why all this effort for a piece of steel? It caused me to rethink, why are we doing this and what it represents? Still today, many people believe that this is just a piece of steel, but really isn't. It's as much a piece of steel as a ringlet of hair from your children's first haircut. Just some hair? I don't think so. The ring on your hand, it's just a piece of steel, but it's your wedding ring. The picture of your family, is it just a piece of paper? The American flag, is it just a piece of cloth? No, it's a representation of time, place, people, and events. It's a symbol of emotion that is attached to those we want to remember and never forget for the rest of our days. No, this is not just a piece of steel. It's not a piece of metal, it's a symbol. It's a representation of the day and all the days to follow, time, events, and yes, more importantly, people. This piece of steel is a representation of the day that America lost its innocence. This piece of metal represents nearly 3,000 lives lost that day, of which 343 firefighters, 71 law enforcement officers, and 8 emergency medical personnel. This piece of metal represents over 6,800 military personnel who have lost their lives in the wars, right or wrong, post 9/11. This piece of metal represents over 125,000 military, firefighters, law enforcement officers, and EMS personnel and their families who have taken their own lives as a consequence of that day. This piece of metal represents over 3,700 citizens, including firefighters, law enforcement officers, and EMS personnel who have cancer as a direct cause of this day. And that number's growing. This piece of metal represents over 1 million wounded citizens in the collapse of war and wars, injury, and the direct result of 9/11. So here we are today to honor all those who have lost their lives that day and those days after, and continuing today, as well as their loved ones who grieve for them. This day and beyond, we honor all of our first responders, our military personnel, who at times place themselves in harm's way every day. Unfortunately, sometimes they have to sacrifice their own lives so that we can sleep at night and wake up the next day. We may stand here today to honor and appreciate their courage in the face of danger, in the face of death, to securing our lives today that we enjoy right here, right now, and our children's futures. So, is this just a piece of metal? I guess each one of us must decide to ourselves, but as you look at this piece of metal, does it bring you back to a time, a place, an emotion that causes you a remembrance of feeling? And if so, I guess this piece of metal has done its job to help us never forget. I'd like to thank those gracious people and companies who have made the Cooter Fire Authority Engaging America trip, because if you've watched any of the feeds on internet, on YouTube, we've engaged America. I've never seen so many flags in my life. Anybody else second that? Yeah, yay America. So this trip has been an incredible revitalization of American values and patriotism and love for this country that we all adore. After looking at those events and our crews traveling across this great nation of ours over the last couple days, many thousand worldwide have participated and engaged to bring us the ultimate conclusion that you can't deny that America is ready for revitalization. The flag means something again today. You can't deny it. And without the kind and generous support of those amazing people, this would not have been possible. So you see, no public funds were used for this honor journey. So I'd like to thank the following folks for their support, and I'd like them to come up if they wouldn't mind, so we can all recognize them. Dellenbach Motors and the Dellenbach family. Come up. Legacy Tractor Sales, Gary Farkas. Signs by Tomorrow, Shauna Eckstein and Tara Rogers. Columbine Healthcare Systems, Carrot Bars International, a company out of Germany that came up with some money for us. Recreational Electric, Trader Oil, like a kangaroo here. Business Equipment Services, Walker Manufacturing, and Jack Surplus. Thank you all.